Lahore is not too far away by Randhawa. Adapted and modified by Kulwant Singh Sandhu. Contents. 1. Lahore is not too far away. 2. Grammar page. Lahore is not too far away. By Afzal Ahsan Randhawa. The sadhu sold pakoras and revelled in his own paradise, while the thief stole and enjoyed life with his wife and kids. And so the sadhu was lost in his own bliss, the thief in his ill-gotten wealth, and time marched on in its own merry way. The story's very premise is nonsense. Dari the weaver blurted out. What's the rest of this tale going to be? Baba Baj interrupted mid-story, flared up like a spark on dry straw. He snapped at Dari. The rest, whatever your mother says it'll be, first you tell me how's the premise nonsense. Dari didn't take Baba's outburst to heart. Grinning, he said, you always say a thief's house never has a lit lamp. Now you're telling us this thief was living it up with his family, and the sadhu after selling pakoras still stayed a sadhu. The master sitting nearby jumped to Dari's defense. Baba listened to Dari for a second. He's saying that the shopkeeper and the thief, if they're not brothers, they're at least cousins. One robs his customers, the other robs his kin. Baba Baj, brushing off the master's words, shot back, a lamp never burns in the house of a God-forsaken thief like you, who wakes up in the morning, heads to the mosque, and steals its oil to rub on himself before bathing. Before Baba could finish, Dari, chuckling, cut in. Every morning before dawn, I haul 100 buckets from the well to fill the mosque's troughs. If any worshipper ever drew even one bucket, call me a liar. So if I take a drop of oil from the pot now and then, what's the sin? If I don't take it from Allah's house, where else am I supposed to get it? Baba couldn't help but laugh at Dari's, where else am I supposed to get it, quip. He said, son, if you don't have the habit of waking up, oiling yourself and bathing, don't even look toward the mosque. Go rub oil on yourself daily. Then to loosen up, draw 10 or 20 buckets, fill the trough and bathe. Won't that do it? You've never had the grace to pray, but mark my words, stealing from Allah's house, you'll die a leper and worms will eat your body. The fear of becoming a leper, or being eaten by worms, made Dari shudder. Defending himself, he said, I swear on my grandmother, I haven't done that in ages. Just last Thursday, I donated 1¼ rupees worth of oil to the mosque. Now you don't steal oil from the mosque to rub on yourself, Baba Baj retorted, half accepting Dari's excuse. Now you just steal fodder. Dari, undeterred, launched into his defense. Come on, Baba, how many animals do I have? I've got one goat-like cow and one cat-like calf, and do I steal fodder every day? Once in a while I grab some grass or fodder and maybe, just maybe, I take a small amount from that stingy jat who never gives anything willingly. By morning he knows Dari took it in the night. He laughs it off, and so do I, Baba. Tell me with your faith and honor, if Dari doesn't take fodder from his own village for his cow, where's he supposed to get it? Go into another village and get my neck broken. Baba Baj burst into laughter. Still chuckling, he said, you rascal, I've told you 100 times, if you can't find any elsewhere, take ours, but don't go stealing people's fodder at night. Don't get killed unlawfully like that. Getting killed while stealing fodder, what kind of life is that? A man like that isn't worth a penny. I never steal from someone whose fodder is their lifeline, Dari chirped back. I only take from those who, even if they catch me, would just let it slide. He continued, haven't you heard, Baba? A wild thief broke into sister's hut but got caught red-handed. What could the sister and her husband say? They fed him bread and water and sent him off. Later the thief told his buddies about the heist. When they asked what happened when you got caught, he grinned and said, the ones who caught me were my sister and brother-in-law. And when they asked, then what? He laughed, what else? Seeing me. My sister and brother-in-law were beside themselves with shame. Baba and the master burst out laughing. Baba Baj with affection said to Dari, you're a master of tall tales. Just then the old Ustad, coughing and dragging his feet, shuffled into the gathering. Come, Ustad. Baba Baj welcomed him, seating him on the cart beside him. Tell us, how's it going? How's it going? The Ustad wheezed, still catching his breath from walking 10 steps. In a weary voice he said, if I lie down I can't get up. If I force myself to sit my legs won't stand. If I struggle to stand I can't walk. And if I risk my life to drag myself from home to your Havely 10 cursed steps, then for a good while I can't even catch my breath. Damn this old age. At Ustad's lament, Dari, cheeky as ever, laughed and said, "Ustad, the wise have said it. Youth is a treasure, but old age is a curse." Everyone, including Ustad, roared with laughter. Baba Baj and Ustad, both in their 70s or 80s, were old companions, lifelong friends. They'd studied up to the 4th grade in their village school before taking up their trades, Baj in farming, Ustad in making parts and hauling loads on donkeys. Baj's fields were now tended by his sons and grandsons, while Ustad's brother sat at the potter's wheel all day, crafting parts, firing them in the kiln, and selling them village to village through his nephew. Ustad, though, had neither wife nor child. For some reason, he'd never found a woman to call his own. And perhaps because of this misfortune, the whole village called him Ustad. Their group was rounded out by 2 other friends, the middle-aged Sayyid master and the young Dari the weaver. As usual, the 4 were gathered at Baba Baj's Haveli, swapping stories into the night. "Baba, move on with it," Dari urged. "We'd moved plenty at our age." Baba Baj teased with a glint in his eye. "Back in the day, we'd walk to Lahore for court cases, 80 kas. We'd tie some roadies to our waists, chant Allah's name and shout. Heavy loads on travellers' backs, Lahore's just a few kas away. And off we'd go, reaching Lahore by dawn on the 3rd day. We'd attend court, head back and leap our way home in 2 days, laughing and joking. The next day we'd be out ploughing the fields, and you dare mark us about walking, you who waits half a day at the station for a train to go 2 kas. Trains have made men useless," Ustad grumbled. "They've robbed the youth of their strength. Back when trains didn't exist, young men had real stamina." The master, usually quiet, couldn't hold back. "Trains have made life easier, Baba. Hop on in the morning, attend the court in Lahore, and return to the village by evening. The journey you took 6 days to make is done in 6 hours. Now, no blisters on your feet, no problems of a side stitch, just sit in the train and sleep if you want." Dari, pleading, said, "I told you, move the story along." "Which story?" Baba Baj asked casually, as if lost in thought. Often one tale would lead to another, then another, and the original story would get buried in the chaos. "The one about the pakor selling sadhu," the master reminded him. "Oh, right," Baba Baj said, glancing at Dari. "Now don't interrupt, and I'll tell you a true story." At the mention of a true story, Ustad perked up. Scratching his scruffy beard, he said, "Truth is a jewel, slip it into any tale and the story shines." Baba Baj continued, "The pakora seller had a regular customer who came every day, ate his fill, burped, wiped his moustache and left without paying a paisa. The shopkeeper never asked for money and the customer never offered. The shopkeeper thought maybe one day this freeloader will feel ashamed and stop this daily deceit, but the customer never felt shame and the shopkeeper never called him out, whether out of weakness or kindness. Who knows, and this went on for a year or 2. Dari couldn't resist. The shopkeeper should have filed a complaint at the police station. They drag that crook away, skin him alive, and take every last coin." Baba Baj pounced on Dari. "Your father's police station didn't exist back then. You had to plead before the ruler, as if a poor pakora seller could get an audience with a hakim." "All right then, what?" Dari asked, eyeing Baba. "One day the freeloader swaggered in, twirling his moustache. He saw the pakora shop closed, the wok washed and turned upside down, and the shopkeeper sitting with his head in his hands. 'What's wrong, friend, no pakoras today?' the customer asked. 'You ate up everything I had over these years,' the shopkeeper said in a trembling voice. 'My resources are gone, what am I supposed to make pakoras with now?' 'All right,' the customer said after a pause. 'Open your shop tomorrow, I'll come at this time.' The next day, true to his word, the customer arrived. He handed the shopkeeper a bundle, folded his hands and said, 'If you told me earlier, your stove would never have gone cold. Run your shop, friend, and when this runs out, whisper in my ear.' With that, he left the shopkeeper stunned. The bundle was stuffed with gold coins, gems, diamonds and pearls, wealth the pakora seller had never even dreamed of. 7 or 8 days later, a proclamation echoed through the city. A notorious thief was to be hanged. He'd broken into a Sardar's mansion, but refused to confess or return the loot. The execution was set for the city's main square, and the whole city turned out to watch, including the pakora seller. At the gallows, bound in chains, stood his daily customer. In a flash, the shopkeeper understood everything. If I return the stolen goods, maybe the thief's life can be spared, he thought, pushing through the crowd toward the scaffold. As he drew closer, he raised his hand to speak. But at that moment their eyes met. The thief read his intention, smiled, and called out loudly, as if addressing the entire crowd. Even if the stolen goods are returned, they'll hang me anyway, so whoever has my loot, keep it. If he doesn't want it all, let him take what I owe him and use the rest to dig wells and build inns for tourists of this city. And the thief was hanged. Baba Baj paused, catching his breath. Dari, laughing, jumped in, and then the shopkeeper built the wells and inns, right? Or did he just gobble up everything? No, brother, Baba Baj said. Back then people still had a shred of honesty. The shopkeeper kept what he needed and used the rest of the wealth to dig 10 wells and build an inn for travelers in the city. For centuries, the people of Lahore and travelers from afar drank from that thief's wells and blessed him. Centuries, the master asked, astonished. Yes, Baba Baj said, looking into the master's eyes. This story is some 4 centuries old, but it's true. That's why it's still alive today. Truth never grows old, Ustad declared, resting his hands on his knees as he stood. Truth never ages, truth never dies. 2 grammar page.